all so much for coming out tonight and spending your Thursday evening with us. My name is Amali, and I'm the events director here at Books Are Magic. We are so excited to have James Park and Irene Yu with us tonight to celebrate the launch of James's debut cookbook, Chili Crisp. But before we get into all of that, I just have a few logistics to point out for how tonight's event is going to go. First off, and I made a brief announcement about this earlier, but James brought some of the food that is featured in the cookbook to tonight's event. We've got some brownies swirled with tahini and chili crisp, and some chips of various kinds with a delicious chili crisp and yogurt dip. So please, please, please make sure you grab some of that either now or on your way out. We will also be doing a raffle drawing at the end of tonight's conversation. There are raffle tickets on all of your seats, so make sure that you grab those and pay attention to the numbers, and we'll let you know when it's time to draw those winners. We will also be doing a hand-raised audience Q&A towards the end of tonight's discussion, so please start thinking of questions to ask and hold on to them. After the talk tonight, James will be signing and personalizing books at the alcove next to where you checked in. We'll let you know where and when to start lining up for that. And lastly, if you're joining us virtually on the YouTube live stream, we would love to encourage you to buy a copy of Chili Crisp online using the link in the live stream description. All right, let's get into this. Everyone knows that Chili Crisp makes everything better, and this cookbook shows us exactly how to improve every dish with a bit of spice and a bit of crunch. From soups to granola to noodles to ice cream, this book is full of memorable recipes and vivid flavors with, of course, gorgeous photos to match. James Park is a recipe developer and food writer based in Brooklyn. Trained at the International Culinary Center here in New York City, he has worked with various food media brands such as Eater, Food 52, BuzzFeed, and Chowhound. He shares his love for Korean cuisine and culture, fried chicken, chili crisp, and more at Jamesy World on social media. And as I mentioned earlier, Irene Yu joins James in conversation tonight. Irene, also known as Yu Eating, is a chef, recipe developer, and writer focused on Korean and Korean American home cooking, street food, and culinary history. She and James co-host YouTube channel Ka Studio, which shares their unique Korean American experiences and perspectives through Korean food, culture, and travel. All right, that's all from me. Without any further delay, please join me in giving James and Irene a very warm welcome.
Thank you so much. I'm Irene. Welcome, everyone. Thanks so much for coming, and thank you so much, James, for inviting me to host your first IRL in-store book talk. I'm super excited. I'm also really excited because James is, to say the very least, like a super good friend of mine. But that's like not even scratching the surface. We are neighbors. He lives down the street from me, and he's actually moving downstairs from me into my apartment building next month. So we're about to be even closer in distance. As she mentioned, we host a YouTube channel together. We are constantly eating and drinking and planning and scheming and doing all these things together. So it's so lovely traveling to Korea. Like, we're doing so much together. So I feel so blessed and honored to be here on the week of your cookbook launch. So let's get into, so first off, I know we're at like a book talk, but also like James and I are friends. So you're just here to hang, so I want it to be like, chill and fun, and so I'll try to make it such. So let's get into talking about how you came up with this cookbook. So I actually already know, because I was there. It was in my apartment. We were co-working together, and you got the call then, right?
Just want to say thank you so much for coming. This is like my first actual bookstore event, and it's so nice to see everyone's faces here. So just thank you so much for coming. Going back to your question. So this all really started with my obsessive personality. So I have a tendency to really if I get into something, I get really, really obsessed over that, and chili crisp was one of it. And it all started with lagama, and I actually got like the wrong kind. There's so many different kinds of lagama that have a completely different flavor profile, and the first jar that I got was not my favorite, so I was like, okay, maybe this is not my thing. And then I found out that I picked up the wrong jar, and when I picked up the real spicy chili crisp and had the first bite, it was like just a whole new world unlocked in me. I was like, I need to find out more. And with the rise of new brands like Fly by Jang and so many other chefs that I admire have created their own chili crisp, I once had a collection of 20 plus different jars, just tasting all different things and using it different dishes. And I wrote an ultimate guide to chili crisp on Eater. And that really exposed me to the secret chili crisp loving community. I still remember one of the people who commented, and like the picture was just like me with all these different jars. And he was like, weird question, but can I print this and put it in my bedroom? And I was like,
you're his idol.
But it wasn't like my face or anything. It was just like a jar of 9 different chili
he wants to
crisps.
aspire to
So I was like, interesting location for the picture. It was like huge picture. So I was like, thank you. Please do that. And then, so yeah, ever since I really started sharing my love of cooking and eating with chili crisp online. And then I was cooking Korean like ton, which is like a fried pancakes with you.
Yeah, it was Chuseok.
Yeah, it was a 4-hour like a Chuseok celebration. And then I got a call. And it was very interesting because it was 2021, I all of a sudden started getting all this like messages and like calls from different publishers, like, would you be interested in writing a book? But it all kind of went nowhere in a way that, oh, it'd be cool, but like there are so many different ideas. And I also didn't really know if I were to write a cookbook, what should it be? And then this particular opportunity came to me from an editor in Chronicle that she always had this idea of, I've always wanted to work on a cookbook on chili crisp. And I feel like you're the perfect person. So the first initial call, I had to ask her like 5 times, so does that mean I'm actually writing a cookbook? Like, or is it just an idea? And then I came out like, I think I might write a cookbook. And then a few months later, yeah, I started working on it.
Yeah, started working on it. Wait, I want to go back real quick. What makes it the wrong lagamao?
Okay, so I don't think there's such thing as wrong lagama, but at the time my palate was not fully developed. I think my Korean palate was not welcoming of those like black beans and what is the shape of a? It's one of those Chinese spices.
Five spice.
Yeah, a 5
Star
spice
anise.
star anise, all of those. Yeah, like a big chunk of those. And I now have an appreciation for that, but like it was very prominently flavored, and I was like, this is not it.
You were looking for the starter version.
Yeah, but like lagama spicy chili crisp is like very savory, and like it's not quite spicy either, and like very crunchy. It was not that. Yeah, but now I can get back to the jar and like, oh, this is really good. But it just shows that your palate develops and changes.
Absolutely. Well, that is a great, so I know that you're Korean. Chili
Yes.
crisp is inherently a Chinese condiment, but that said, in reading the cookbook and watching you develop the cookbook, I know that you infuse so much of your Koreanness into it. And so I'm sure part of that was because you were like, oh, that first lagamao was very Chinese and you wanted to make it something a little more palatable to you.
Mm-hmm.
But then how do you feel like you were sort of working with that through developing this book?
I think the biggest question/insecurity that I felt was, why should I be the person writing about chili crisp? So me as a Korean immigrant, I didn't grow up with chili crisp. It's fairly a recent discovery, and I couldn't quite answer that question. I do remember a lot of nights asking you, I don't know whether I'm the right person, even after I signed the contract, and it was just very scary because I didn't want people to feel like you are the wrong person to write this, and you didn't grow up with that, you're not Chinese, and all of that. But that's why the introduction really started with the paragraph of I am a Korean immigrant who used to live in Alabama and now in New York. And even as an Asian identity and person in America, I think even though chili crisp was a Chinese condiment, I felt very safe to really celebrate my Asian identity. And I went through so many years, especially living in Alabama. At that time, my definition of success in America was assimilating to the white mass culture. And there are many things that really helped me be very confident and proud of who I am as a Korean immigrant now. But being in love with Asian food that's beyond Chinese, that's beyond Korean food, and being able to have a conversation and connection with my new Chinese friends and other friends from an Asian culture, and our love for chili crisp and anything spicy, and that gave me like, okay, I think this is just like a very fun, spicy vehicle for everyone to talk about our stories. And I reach out to my friends and they share their insight of like, this is the type of a chili crisp that I grew up in my home, and just gathering all those things and tasting other people's. I felt like this was a perfect vehicle for me to share my Korean flavors and stories. And now after developing my Korean chili crisp, I feel like this is so personal to me, and hopefully I can become that ambassador to Korea to taste chili crisp.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you weren't an expert before, you certainly are now after having written this book and deep dived so much into chili crisp. In the process of writing this book, you developed not just one, but 3 different chili crisps. And we have the YouTube channel, and we launched our video today.
Please go like and subscribe.
Where we, especially if you're watching on YouTube. Where we, like, James cooks through making this chili crisp. And I have tasted it so much before. I've seen him do the various iterations, and I watched him literally make it in my apartment, and it was amazing how much like love and care you put into it, and how not only you infuse your Koreanness, but also infuse just like your favorite things about so many different cultures. I think just like the best ingredients and stuff. So tell us a little bit more about your signature chili crisp.
Yeah. So even though the flavors are very Korean, the ingredients are not necessarily Korean. I am the product of kind of all different cultures and exposures in America, and a lot of ingredients that are in my chili crisp are the result of that. So one of the example is Aleppo pepper, which is one of the pepper flakes in my chili crisp blend. And I am really good friends with Eddie Massey, who owns Eddie's Grocer, and he is the one who really introduced me to the world of Middle Eastern cuisine. And Korean food is not necessarily full of spices in a way, so he's the one who showed me the whole rack of spices like sumac, baharak, and all these wonderful flavors that I never knew. And when I tasted those and hearing how he uses his spices really opened, the whole new world that I was not exposed to, and being able to bring different elements of my, like, what makes my current American life in a way, was really exciting, that I was able to be inspired by all those different things and put it in a jar that makes me feel like this chili crisp is a perfect representation of who I am. And it tastes a little bit of Korean, but not fully Korean, but also a little bit of Middle Eastern and a little bit of Chinese. And I am not true Korean in a sense that, I'm Korean. This is something that I am proud of, but it's more than that as a person living in America. So the fact that I can share all those kind of complex but also exciting parts of my life through a condiment is really, really special.
And it's not just like the chili flakes too, because you have, like you mentioned, Aleppo pepper, and obviously there's gochugaru and gochujang in it, which is very Korean, as well as like the Sichuan chili flakes, which make it kind of more classic.
And fresh shallots.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit more about like because like the list of ingredients, there's like 20 different ingredients that go in it. So you mentioned fried shallots. There's also like chicken powder, which I like didn't know. And then you also put in like MSG, which is like iconic for
very
Asian
pro
food.
MSG here.
Yeah. So like how many iterations do you think you did?
Yeah, I think I went through at least 7. So I had an idea that, okay, if I'm gonna write a cookbook about chili crisp, I feel like I should make my own. And then the first version had gochugaru, has the oni pepper flake, and then scallion, garlic, and pretty standard. And I feel like it's good, but it's not the best. Slash, it's not something that I want to put my name behind or like want to make it again and again. And I started looking at my pantry, like what are some things that I can add? And that's where I saw chicken powder. That's where I saw MSG, ground ginger. And then, okay, let's add more spices and make it more exciting. And the second version was so much better than the first version. And I started also playing with the pace and the technique. So the current version uses the gochujang garlic scallion infused oil, but before that, I used tomato paste to kind of bring that red color, but it didn't have like the savoriness in a way. And I felt weird to having tomato paste and chili crisp. So that's when I realized, oh my God, let's do the gochujang. And then like that oil itself was already so delicious. But when you look at chili crisp recipes out there, I think there are 2 main techniques. Either you have a low and slow approach and you're just adding all different kind of stuff and kind of make the truly chili infused oil. Or you arrange all this ingredient and pour hot oil and call it a day, which is what you guys probably have seen online a lot. And I combine those 2 in a way that I am having scallion, gochujang garlic infused oil, which can be really used as a Korean condiment in a way. I feel like that's the type of oil you'll put on a lot of like Korean dishes as a yangnyeomjang. And then if I didn't pour hot oil, I think the flavors of chili flakes and other elements to season don't really have a time to shine. So having and including that hot pouring really brought all the essence of flavors of everything that's in the chili crisp. And when I finally perfected that, I felt like all of a sudden I saw like my life mission
your life
of like,
moment.
okay, more people need to taste that because this is so different. I don't think I've ever tasted anything like this before. And I wanted more people to feel this like pure joy and excitement that I felt when I first came up with it. And now I tease a lot online of like, oh my God, what do I do? I want to eat your chili crisp. And seeing people's reaction of like, especially from my Korean friends, like, oh, wow, this is very different. And this is the flavor profile that I've been looking for. And I think that really gives me kind of reassurance that my chili crisp is good.
I mean, so then that said, do you have plans to sell it?
For now, I think the best way for you to get the chili crisp recipe is from my cookbook. And I'm trying to work with a lot of different restaurants as like a collaborative partner in a way that maybe if you come to any sort of those events, you can taste it. And I'm actually selling chili crisp at this kind of booth for the first time next Saturday at Mom Market. It's happening in Bushwick on September 9th. It's another plug of many, book events that I'm doing, but that's the first time that I'm selling it. But for now, I feel like if I cannot really get to the shelves, the best way to share the flavor is the recipe. But I also find out that a lot of people, even with the recipe, they just want to buy the jar. So if you know any rich people who are willing to invest in this person's American spicy dream to have Korean chili crisp out there, please let me know. I am happy to explore the venture, but I don't have money at the moment.
Maybe after this cookbook goes big gangbusters, you will.
Hopefully.
So like I remember when you were developing this cookbook and telling people about it, everyone's like, okay, so you're writing a cookbook about chili crisp. Is it about making chili crisp, which it is, or is it about cooking with chili crisp, which it also is?
Yeah.
So you have a whole bunch of recipes that feature chili crisp, and I was like, so amazed at the breadth of recipes that you have. Not only do you have like pasta dishes, meat dishes, casseroles. We love a casserole. And desserts as well. Like you guys are having the brownies. I think I was so amazed at like how many recipes you were able to come up with. You're like, my editor needs to have me deliver, how many was it, like 60 recipes, all featuring chili crisp. And I was like, how does one person put chili crisp in that many different things?
I mean, I felt that too.
Yeah. So like, do you feel like there were any that were kind of a super struggle or any that were like a super surprise to you?
The biggest struggle writing this book was, how do I standardize the flavor of chili crisp? Because each brand of chili crisp has such a different taste and ratio of oil and chili crisp that even with the same recipe, if I use it with my chili crisp recipe, it would taste one thing, and if I use laogama, it would taste completely different. And I was like, there's no way for me to control the end result. But I realized it's kind of one of the beauties of cooking with chili crisp. So I want to use my silken tofu soup, which is like the Korean sundubujigae, as an example. If I use my more Korean-ish chili crisp, it tastes so much like what I would get in Korea. And I wanted to sell that in Korea. But if I use Fly by Jing or chili, laogama chili crisp, it did not taste Korean, but it tasted very familiar, somewhere between like Korean and Chinese flavors in a way that it was so unique. And that's when I realized I love both versions, and I want to encourage people to make the same recipe with different chili crisps that you might have. And depending on what you like and what flavor profile you resonate more, you can have different happy eating experience even with the same recipe. And I hope more people can cook my recipe like 3 or 4 times a day. Oh, not a day, that's a lot. But I mean, that's what I used to do. And like, it was also really difficult because I had to test all the recipe at least 3 times. So just imagine the pure
we
volume.
ate so much chili crisp.
I didn't know that I could consume that much. I feel like if you like cut me in a way, I will bleed chili oil at this point. And it's just so much of chili crisp and chili oil. And it's really funny. I want to share this like funny thing so I had a launch party on Tuesday. That was like the first day. And I had such a great time, like so much of chili crisp joy. And then I got home, I wanted to decompress with happy feelings. And then I found out that a whole tub of chili crisp exploded into my backpack. So that...
I'm actually surprised that this was...
It did not, okay, not to that
earlier.
volume. It was just like, I would say at least a half-liter amount of oil just exploded in my backpack, ruined the microphone that I had, ruined the backpack, ruined my t-shirt, like just, I had to throw away everything. And I spent 2 hours cleaning, and one of the iPhone chargers, so I thought I cleaned it, but every time I use it, there are residues of chili oil after using it. I'm like, I can't escape from chili oil. And then I made more because I had to make more. And just feeling that joy of like hearing the hot oil sizzle and just staring at a huge bowl of chili crisp, I was like, I cannot hate you, you know, like you still bring me so much joy, and that's just the life of that.
If you aren't an expert, people have to consider you an expert after all of this. You've literally drowned all of your belongings.
It's so funny that like after charging my phone, you see chili oil residue, and my thing, I don't know whether it's safe or not, honestly, because it did spark when I try to charge my laptop, so I don't recommend that.
I don't think you should use this charger.
Yeah, but it's just my life is like swimming in chili oil, and I'm proud of that. And if I smell like chili crisp, I feel like I have a good excuse.
Candles.
Oh, I don't know whether people want to smell chili oil. I don't know. Yankee
We'll
Candle, if you are watching, let's collab.
So the dishes that you developed, aside from like pairing them with different chili crisps, is there any that you developed that you like really thought chili crisp wasn't gonna work, and then it really surprised you?
Definitely dessert chapter. I also write in the book how I have this horrible failed experiment of making spicy peach crumbles with Laogama chili crisp. Just imagine really warm, nice cooked peach with garlic. And I tasted that, and the flavor even intensified even more the day after. And I was like, oh my God, like, what do? I don't know how I can write a dessert chapter with lagom or anything. So I think that's when I really went back to the drawing board, and I wanted to create chili crisp that still kept the structure and the vibe of a chili crisp, but more paired for like sweet desserts. So I stripped down all the delicious savory flavoring that makes my savory chili crisp delicious. So like took out of garlic, scallion, and all of that, and I just came back to chili flakes, oil, salt, sugar, and a variety of nuts. And that also unlocked this whole new world of dessert in a way. I'm like, oh my God, I can put this in a pound cake. I can put this over ice cream. And I'm not a huge dessert person, but having that like surprising spice at the end was like so exciting for me. And I hope people really pay attention to dessert chapter. I hope you guys like the brownies that you tasted as well. Yeah, and one of the pairings that really surprised me slash didn't think that it was gonna work was this. It doesn't have a picture, but it has a fluffy chocolate roll with chili crisp strawberry jam filling. So strawberry jam and chili crisp, I was like, the only reason that I put that together is like red and red. Maybe it might work. I did not have any expectations, but the jammy sweetness of strawberry jam and especially the nutty chili crisp that I have, it worked so well in a way that I went through just like months of putting that over ricotta toast, and it was so like perfect balance of sweet spicy flavors that it's an element of a dish, but I highly recommend getting or making my very nutty chili crisp and mixing that with strawberry jam, and it's delightful. It's so good.
So I want to ask Korean to Korean.
Yeah.
What do your parents think about this?
They didn't. Okay, first of all, I don't think my mom still knows how to pronounce chili crisp. So
His parents live in Korea.
oh yeah, so my Korean parents live in Korea, and when I told them that I got a book deal, it was like, what is that? And like, I was really envious of people who could talk about their struggles with their parents or have someone as their resource. So neither my Alabama parents or Korean parents knew what chili crisp was. So I just kept, but I still wanted to connect with them. So I kept sharing like, oh, I made brownies. I made like all of these. And they're like, cool. They don't know how it tastes. So when I went back to Korea earlier this year, and when I brought chili crisp and when I made them, my signature chili crisp fried eggs, I think I saw that sparkle from my mom's eyes. They're like, oh, this is what you meant. And she also, I was so surprised that she even went out of her way to find laogam in Korea. And she tasted that and she came back to me like, oh, I did not like that.
Yours was
yeah,
better.
like something about yours, like it tasted really good, but I don't think I can taste or enjoy anything else. And getting all the messages from like my parents having their own journey of their chili crisp adventure. So my mom would put it in her like veggie, like a sam. So we have, my parents have this like a vegetable garden right next to it. So my dad would harvest a ton of lettuce, and they would just have lettuce, rice, and typically you would add like a samjang, which is like a Korean barbecue sauce. Was that? Yeah. And then she would put a little bit of my chili crisp in there and like, look, like this is how I'm pairing and it tastes so good. And before I left Korea, I made probably like 10 jars of chili crisp for her to enjoy. And then she just ate all of those in like 2 weeks. And then like, you need to come back to Korea and like make it again. And I was like, okay. And now like for them to be so excited, they still haven't like held the book
Yeah, you gotta
yet.
bring the book for them.
Yeah, so I am excited for them to finally like touch my book, and they know like how it tastes and how I find that so personal as a Korean, and they're trying to like be the advocate of chili crisp in their community, and it's so dear to watch them. Yeah.
Okay, this is my last question before we move on to Q&A. This is my most important question. Again, as a Korean, you love K-pop. If you were to pick one of your chili crisp dishes to be the next New Jeans song, what would it be?
Like a dish, or
It would be the next New Jeans song.
oh, the title. Okay.
You would have to choreograph a whole K-pop dance to it. There's a whole vibe, whole spicy vibe.
I think very nutty chili crisp because like I can see some sort of a dance move happening with the nuts. Wait, that sounds weird.
It's getting into like cats in the
Yeah,
territory.
I think it's kind of weird, but something.
Mr. Peanut territory.
Yeah.
Into that?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, that's a hard question, but I think if they taste it, I think they will come up with some fun choreographies for sure.
Definitely.
Yeah, but also I want to say that my book got picked up by Korean distributors, so my book can be sold in Korea. So I'm so excited that some people can even pick up my book in Korea.
Yay! All right,
Yay.
Let's open it up to questions. If you raise your hand, say your question. I will repeat it so that those on the live stream can hear. Yes.
Was there a point in testing the recipes that you kind of like set your mouth on fire beyond like anything you expected to? Whether that was like making your own or that was trying like a jarred version of something?
So the question is, when you were developing your recipes, was there any time you really like blew out your palate? It was so spicy, overwhelmed yourself with chili crisp.
Yeah, I think it was my mapo tofu recipe. I just didn't know how much to use. So right now it uses 1/3 cup, which is still like spicy and fun, but like it's not super overwhelming because there are a lot of elements. But I started with like a 1/2 cup of chili crisp with like Fly by Jang, and that was just like explosion of like spice that it hurt my system a little bit. So but also that's the thing that like each chili crisp has such a different spice level that when I say 1/3 cup of my chili crisp, I think that's fine. But if it's a 1/3 cup of a chili crisp that uses like the California Ripper pepper, right? I think yeah, something super spicy, then it will taste completely different. So experiment with the ratio of your own risk. But I think at this point, I really enjoy spicy flavors even more than that, and it makes me feel alive when I sweat. When I feel that heart burn. Like I'm a human. Yay! I can taste and feel things, and I'm sweat. All of that. So I don't know. Yeah.
Yes, over here.
What drink would you pair with your book?
Ooh. What drink would you pair with your book?
Alcoholic or non-alcoholic?
Whatever.
Soju.
That. But my immediate thing goes to Milkis. So Milkis is a Korean, like a carbonated yogurt drink. So I think it's, first of all, like yogurt-based drink, so it can tame down a little bit of spice, and the carbonation can also offset a little bit of spice. So in Korea, they have this like drink pairing with like a really spicy food, so they can like go back and forth of like burn your throat and then cool it down and burn your throat again. So I think it's a part of like Korean thing of like we love like spicy thing, but like we still want to take care of our body by drinking very sweet drink. I think sweet drink definitely usually helps with the spice or milk. Bless you.
Yes, right here.
What were some recipes that you tried but ultimately didn't make it into the book?
Ooh, what are recipes that did not make it into your book?
Okay, so I can definitely tell you this one thing. I try to make Rice Krispie with chili crisp, and it makes sense. And I tried like 3, 4 different kinds and versions of that. One of them had furikake, so like I definitely have seen the savory Rice Krispie route, but it was one of those recipes that like it's fine, but I don't know whether I would actually make this again. And maybe it's because I'm not a big fan of Rice Krispies and I just haven't found the right angle, but I remember I tested that like 3, 4 times, and when it was decision time, I think that was the easiest thing for me to cut it out. Yeah.
That's a question over here.
Yeah. Is there any like area of cuisine or like food types that you didn't get to explore pairing with the chili crisp in the book, and you'd like to?
Are there any cuisines or food types you did not get to include or in your exploration of chili crisp pairings?
I am so personally intrigued by like Nigerian cuisine, Caribbean cuisine, like all the other flavor cultures who enjoy spices, but different level of spice. And I think I also found out from my colleague Nicole Rufus, who is also an incredible recipe developer at the kitchen. So she introduced me to this thing called shito. I believe that's how it's pronounced. It is kind of like Nigerian chili crisp, and it had like chili flavor oil, and she made a cucumber salad with that. And like me tasting that also was like, there's more chili crisp out there, and I was like, oh my god, this is incredible. And I don't know much about African cuisine and cultures, and I want to learn more about how I can bring the flavors of chili crisp into that.
Yeah, stay tuned for a chili crisp part 2 and a
World tour, truly.
Scotch bonnet chili
Yeah.
crisp. Really light your mouth on fire.
I feel like that would be chili crisp would be so good on doubles as well. I don't think there's anything it doesn't belong on chili crisp. That whatever food group, I always challenge you. If you say something that I bet you cannot find the chili crisp connection, I feel like I will find the chili crisp connection.
Slide into James's DMs if you find something. Question over here.
When you were developing your recipe and you were putting in the different amounts, what was your guide? Like, okay, that's enough Aleppo pepper, or that's enough of whatever.
What was your guide when developing your chili crisp recipe in terms of how many amounts of how much of each ingredient to put in?
It all started just a pure guess, and then start with the random number, and then adjust from there. Also, excuse me. I wanted the flavors of each ingredient to be present. If I use like half teaspoon or like 1/4 teaspoon of something, I just did not taste that and it just got lost. So especially in the chili crisp, I knew that 3 blend would be good. I could go for 4 or 5, but I think if I added more than 3, each flavor of chili flakes would get lost. And then I wanted to have the main flavor to be the blend of gochugaru and the citron pepper flakes. So they have more ratio than the Aleppo pepper flakes. And Aleppo pepper is kind of there as like a hidden missing puzzle of the final triangle of the chili world. And Aleppo pepper, I started with like 1 teaspoon or 1 tablespoon and 2 tablespoons. And I don't taste it. So I just kept upping and until I found that level, which is what it is in the recipe that, you know, just like, I think what's so exciting about cooking is that it's all about experiment. And if you wanted to add more, if you wanted to add less, it's almost like the mathematical problems of, you know, finding your perfect formula.
Great. I have a question over here, and then I'll take you over here.
Did you learn anything about like the history of chili crisp and how it first came about?
Did you learn about the history of chili crisp and how it was developed?
Yes. Oh my God. I went deep down of limited resources that's available on the internet. This all really started with Lagama. Hubei, I believe that is how I pronounce her name. She is the face that you see of Lagama, and she started selling chili crisp in her dumpling noodle shop in Guangzhou province. But also, I want to fact check by looking at my book. I included that, but somewhere there. And then it just started out of just like one of the condiments from the store. And then she eventually there was so much demand about that specific chili crisp. And she went on to just like making a factory and really grew this business that is available in so many parts of Asia and the world. I think Chinese culture always had their version of chili crisp or spicy condiment, but she's the first person who really had this iconic flavor and like the jar condiment to sell to the rest of like Asia and China and all of that. And to read so many articles about how she still like goes to the factory and like checks the quality, and like there were many articles written about how she's like one of the first, like one of the richest women in China for a right reason. And for her to be still so iconic, and it all started from just like her coming up with her own condiment in her shop. So I feel like chili crisp in a way is just like a product of a success, and like hard diligent work can really make a big difference in a world. And whether that is a sauce or spice, anything, I think if you really go for it, you can make the whole world spicy and beautiful. But there's more history behind it. If you read the book, there's a whole section about that.
Great. We have time for 2 more questions. A gentleman over here, and then I'll take the question in the back.
The cookbook is like very beautiful. How did you kind of use the visual aspect to kind of enhance your story of chili crisp and your recipes?
Oh, that's so nice. The cookbook is so beautiful. How did you leverage the visual aspect of chili crisp into your recipes?
That I feel like I can't take any credit for that, because this is truly a collaborative work with my creative team. So Hemi Lee, who is also an incredibly talented Korean photographer, I knew that I wanted to work with her, but also I did not know how I wanted the photos to look. And I know Irene tried to help me so much about, so what's your vision with the design? I'm like, I don't know. And like, I just don't have like a good eye for design. And Hemi and her creative team really took my idea and like ran with it and just showed me all the like electric, vibrant colors of chili crisp. And also I was worried that like every picture is gonna have chili crisp. So like, would it be redundant in a way? And then what surprised me the most was the setup prop. Like, it was so crazy. Goze, who's the prop stylist of my book, she really set each recipe picture into a story. And it blew me away of like, oh my God, this is why people use prop. This is why people use food styling, because it added so much personality to a simple dish. And if you know me, there are little hidden secrets of like my phone, my cat, my fan, like there are all this different products that I use in my life also made it to the pictures, which make this book very personal, even though my face is not there.
Great. Last question in the very back.
Did you have like a specific like album or like genre of music that you really listen to while creating recipes, or like would you have an album or a genre of music you would assign to this book?
So did you have any music or a specific album or song that you were listening to when you were developing, or if not, this is your chance to choose one?
90% listen to K-pop only. But there's a lot of K-pop reference that's like hot, spicy, and stuff like that. So whenever those songs like came as I was like cooking, it really got me into like, oh yeah, like we're getting spicy here. But one of the songs that I really, really like right now, it came out after the development, but now I use it all the time as a part of like promo. It's Spicy by aespa. So aespa is just like one of my favorite K-pop girl. I'm actually going to their concert next Tuesday. And it's all about I'm too spicy for your heart, which is like the lyrics, and I really felt that.
Or stay tuned for New Jeans' next Very Nutty Chili Crisp.
Yeah.
Well, great. Thank you so much. I think we'll wrap it up here. Thanks so much, James.
Thank you so much.
Live stream.
I'm gonna have my Oprah Winfrey moment.